Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Trowel Talk Live. My name is Marion Runstedler, and today we have a wonderful talk with our own master gardener, Penka Mantanska, on fruit trees for small spaces. She will be giving us tips and ideas on fruit bushes and how to best incorporate them into our perennial gardens. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat feature, and Belinda Buchenhoven will be monitoring the chat, and Penka will try to answer as many questions as she can at the end of the talk. So over to you, Penka.
Thank you, Marion. So fruit bushes in small spaces. Today, I like to share my experience of growing fruit bushes in my city garden. I will explore what works for me and what doesn't work very well for me, and what you need to start your own fruit bush garden. Well, it takes a couple of steps to get that garden going. First, establish the space. And a space of 6 by 6 feet is all you need to grow 3 to 4 different types of bushes, or 4 of the same kind. On the left, you can see my garden, or part of it, and these are my red currant, and you can see how I've planted them right by my sidewall, my west-facing sidewall. Bushes need a space of about 3 feet at least around each. Some may need even more depending on how much you trim them. Some may need less, but you really want to allow the bushes to be able to grow and establish well. And choose a good spot with at least 6 hours of sun. If you have a shady garden, fruit bushes will not do very well. You need at least 6 hours of sun or more. Actually, best they will do in full sun. The next step is choose the plants. Grow what you like to eat, and grow what is hardy in our area, zone 5 or 4B, depending on where you live. So Ottawa does not tolerate some of the bushes that they sell in stores. So my advice is to grow something that has been grown in Canada. The climate is quite hard, and the winters are really hard on some of the fruit bushes. So this is what you need to start the first steps. The next steps is to plant the plants, preferably in early spring, and arrange them if you have all the bushes at the same time, trying to put the taller ones on the back, looking at what the instructions are for each bush. If you are starting with a few bushes, just plant them on the back, unless they're the blueberry bushes. They will do well in height. And plant them in a well-draining side. I had an experience that these bushes do not tolerate standing water, most of them. I tried my blueberry bushes, planting them in a place where I didn't know how it's going to turn out, because we just moved in the house, and the next spring there was standing water. Even for the brief time, the bushes did not do well. So well-draining side, and once you plant them, apply a layer of mulch to help those bushes establish, and water them well. And be patient. It will take 2 to 3 years for the bushes to start producing fruit, except the raspberry bushes. They may deliver early in the first or second year. Some suggestion is to remove the fruit even in the first or second year to get the plants established well. So you have strong plants rather than sacrificing some growth for fruit in the very first years. And now I will go over what bushes produce well for me. I will start with the blueberry varieties. These are good bushes to plant in small spaces. Most of them do not go over 2 feet tall. And you can plant them at the front of your bed. And the blueberry bush that works well for me is the Patriot, and that is a reliable producer. Blueberries are self-pollinating, or they say so. I would like to have at least 2 varieties just to increase the crop. And the blueberry that I have together with my Patriot is called pink lemonade. It is a lovely fruit in pink. So those are the 2 that I use for my blueberries. The pink lemonade is not super hardy. I always take a very good care to protect it in the winter time, and I'm still yet to see fruits in that bush. So blueberries are a little fussy. They also require acidic soil. Although I do not acidify my soil, I have a pH that's close to neutral, and they still deliver. But the next plant that I like to show you is that I grow, the next bush, is raspberries. And my advice is to pick a raspberry type, a variety that is an everbearing variety. Those would produce a crop in July and a crop at the end of September or early October, depending on the year. Here I'm showing you my 2 everbearing varieties I have in the garden. On the left side is the yellow raspberry Ann, and on the right side is my heritage red raspberry. They both produce in July. Right now they started in mid-July and they still have berries, and they go again around late September until frost. Raspberries are bushes that you need to prune in early spring. So you need to remove the dead canes, and the berries will come on the new canes. They need to be trimmed to about 3 to 4 feet in height, and you may want to thin them and leave maybe 3 canes per bush, just so you have larger fruit. Otherwise, you may have a lot of leaf mass and very small fruit production. That is about the raspberries. Now, I do grow gooseberries, and gooseberries, I love gooseberries. Some people find them thorny and difficult to maintain. The gooseberry variety that I grow is Pixwell, and it's a very reliable and hardy producer. That's the good thing, is it's very hardy in the Canadian winters, and it always produces, and it always overflows with fruit. So one trick I do with the gooseberries is I trim the ends right after finish fruiting, just so I keep them in shape. And gooseberries produce for a long time. They don't ripe at the same time, so you can have for a couple of months even gooseberries. If I'm lucky and the chipmunk doesn't get them, I usually have gooseberries even till September. And they have right now, gooseberries are great in jams. I just made my jam. All other fruits, I never have enough because the squirrels and the chipmunk get them before me. With the gooseberries this year, I was able to save some. So that is the gooseberry. And we're going to move to the next fruit bush that I like and I have in my garden. And those are red and black currants and white currants. They are also very hardy, and they're very good producer. They're also self-pollinating, which is very helpful. You can only have one bush and you will still have fruit. I find they become a little bit leggy if you don't maintain them, and they can get a lot of new shoots. So you really need to either prune them right after the fruit production, and thin them to a couple of canes to grow, or prune them in early spring, thin them, remove the leggy ones, and the stems that are going crossover. They're the ones that I think need the most maintenance in my for me in my garden. Although the bushes are the fruits are also lovely, so I like to have them for the wildlife in my garden as well. An interesting fruit bush that I grow in the garden, it's the clove currant. The clove currant is rather interesting for me. I grow it rather for the flowers because they're so pretty and they're clove scented. And in the early spring, when there is not much blooming, they provide a great interest. The bees love them as well. And the leaf shape is also an interesting, it creates a variety in the garden. These bushes are self-pollinating, so one bush is all I have. And they do produce, although it does take a long time for the berries to grow and to ripen. Right now, they're still green in my garden, and they turn into a deep purple blackish color when they're ripe. And unfortunately, I have to share them with the squirrels, and they don't like to share, so very much, not much is left when I have to pick them up. So that is the clove currant. And honeyberry is another bush that I started growing a couple of years ago. So the honeyberries are interesting little bushes. They grow to about 2 feet tall, so I chose the miniature version. And the only thing with the honey bushes is that you need two for cross-pollination to actually do have a fruit. And you can see on the picture here, the fruit is forming on the left. I'm just going to show you. Here is the fruit forming after the flower. They are lovely bushes, and they produce very early in the season. I do like honey bushes because they provide a very interesting color in the fall as well. So it's just not the bush that's without interest after it finishes producing. And now, if you have a perennial garden and you want to grow fruit bushes within the perennial garden, so what you can do is you can intermix perennials with the fruit bushes. As you can see here on the left side, the picture shows you my blueberry bush with the perennials. This is a heuchera that is planted underneath. I think it's called green spice. It's very low ground. I don't want to overflow or overshadow the blueberry bush, so you have to be very picky of what you choose. But at the very beginning of the season, when there is no other focal point because it's just the green leaf mass of the fruits forming, you want to have something more interesting blooming, then you can certainly place some perennials tactfully in places where they will provide interest. So for that is a nice spring combination. And you can do some combinations in the late summer as well to provide further interest. So I use some daylilies tall daylilies and try to contain them very well plant them in front of fruit bushes. That's the daylily right in front of my clove currant at the moment. Other options are flowering onions because they die after they finish flowering, so they will still not overshadow the bush. I have phloxes as well. You have to see what you like in your garden, but you have to make sure that most of the things stay up right and they don't spread in size a lot. I have here another picture with my late combinations of perennials with echinacea throughout the season pretty much. Some will still be in the back. And I have garden phlox that hasn't started blooming because I wanted to bloom later when the gooseberry is finished blooming to provide an interest. So my phlox is right beside my gooseberry bush. But it is all possible to provide to kind of intermix your fruit bushes with perennials, allowing them some space to grow and providing an interest at the same time. And now I like to show you what the bushes produce. So harvest time, the earliest fruits come from the red, white, and black currant and the honeyberries. So that's how the honeyberries look like. Most of you are familiar with red and black currant. They have this soury, distinct taste, which is good for jellies. The honeyberries are very interesting in a sense. Their taste like between blueberries, Saskatoon berry, but very juicy. So it's an interesting addition. That is the earliest harvest, and that is more the mid-season harvest where the blueberries and the gooseberries start producing and my raspberries produce. I usually pick, just to give you a sense, I have a few bushes of each of those, except the gooseberries one, and I pick maybe a handful every other day. So you're not going to have a production, except the gooseberry is so giving. But for the other bushes, maybe if you don't share them with the wild animals, you may have every day a handful of what I'm showing. Otherwise, it will be just every other day. You may have something like this. So these berries mostly will produce for about 3 weeks, except the gooseberry that will produce a little bit later in the season as well. And you can see there, just one is not ripe. I try not to pick the green ones because you want to give them a chance. And now, when the season is over, you like to have some interest in the garden and not have this empty patch of the fruit bushes after they produce. So that's why I like the blueberries. And this is the pink lemonade. You can see the color is so pretty. And even if it hasn't produced for me, the fall it's very satisfying to see this red color. So you can see on the left side, the red from the blueberry bushes. At the very front is the honeyberry bush with the yellow tinge. And in the middle is the gooseberry bush that has this coppery burgundy color of the leaves. They a little bit start shriveling, but still producing an interest. And now, the last but not least, you need to take some good care of with your bushes so they actually come back the following year. What I usually do is I layer a compost around the area of each bush. And then that happens when the ground is almost frozen. You don't want to put this earlier because you don't want to send wrong signal to the bushes to start actually sprouting. So you want to do that when the ground is frozen or nearly freezing, when it's very cold. And then I would also layer a layer of compost, a layer of mulch, natural mulch, just to increase the chance of the bushes to survive. And remove any dead branches, but do not trim the bushes, do not prune the bushes. It's best to leave them to do that in the fall. You want the bushes to have the best chance of surviving, and you don't want to open any areas where insects or any diseases can get into the bushes. So that picture, unfortunately, is of early spring because I didn't have a picture of the late fall, but that's how the bushes are found before I start removing the dead canes that you can see in, here are the dead canes of the raspberries, and trimming them to a certain height. Yeah, with this, I will finish my presentation. And I hope I inspired you to start growing some fruit bushes in your garden. And thank you.
Thank you very much for that really appetizing and interesting presentation, Penka. I've seen plants I didn't know existed, actually. So, and we do actually have a couple of questions. So I'll start with one from Rebecca, which she's wondering if she could squeeze a clove currant into her garden. So I'm thinking she's asking how much space it would take up.
Yes, my clove currant grows very slow. That's an interesting question because I've noticed this is one of the bushes that actually does grow very slow. Mine, I've had it for probably 4 or 5 years, and it doesn't spread very much in side. It's still about 1 foot in diameter, and it's maybe about 3 feet in height, not even 3, between 2 and 3 feet in height. So it is a very slow growing bush, and absolutely, it's very possible. If
All right,
she,
so
yeah.
Good. Rebecca might be fortunate then to have room for it. Another question from Judy is whether the clove currant would be a good pollinator for the honeyberry, timing wise, seeing that the bees like it. So could they work together to attract bees?
Definitely they do bloom at the same time. That's one thing I noticed, that all the fruit bushes actually do bloom at the same time. It's just they ripen at different times. So you can see the red currant and the clove currant are blooming at the same time. So as the honeyberry, my honeyberry is not super close. Maybe it's about maybe it's about 10 feet away from the clove currant. So I don't have an experience. I already have the 2 honey bushes, so I don't have only 1 bush to know if that will happen. But I noticed that the honey bushes are not heavy producers. Maybe they're young. Mine, this is my 2nd year having them, so I haven't had a lot of experience, and definitely it would be interesting. It's just the bees are buzzing around the bushes at the same time, so it is possible. I don't have experience.
Okay, thank you. So now a question from Tula, who asks, do you have problems with your raspberries spreading by rhizomes?
Well, yes, that is a good question. Very good question. I'm very much on top of my raspberry bushes, and I definitely do cut those rhizomes, and I generously give them away or plant them in different places. Yes, that is a big problem. If you definitely don't think you will be on top of it, the best thing to do is to actually put the raspberry bush in a big pot and cut the bottom of it and plant it like that.
Okay. Yeah, so that helps sort of contain the rhizomes.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Karen would like to know which varieties of honeyberry you have.
Okay, my honeyberry is called, I'm trying to find it. So I do have indigo gem and very blue.
Okay, thank you. And then Cynthia would like to know that she's enjoying, she says the honeyberry is also called the haskap, and she's wondering if it takes up a lot of space.
The hascaps are, I have a feeling these are a new hybrids that they developed because they call them mini honeyberries. And definitely my bushes are about 2 feet by 2 feet, not even that, about 1.5 feet and 1.5 feet. So that's how large my bushes are. The hascaps they've known to grow actually quite tall and spread a little more. I don't have one of those. So it's better to stick to a newer varieties that if you have a small space. That's my advice.
Okay. Rebecca again asks if you have any tips on rejuvenating raspberries. She's got quite old canes and they're no longer productive. Should she prune, fertilize, or replace them, or what should she do?
Wow, that is very interesting. I'm not sure which variety, Rebecca, you have. I do have the heritage one, and I don't have that experience. Maybe the best thing would be to let the new shoots that come out grow and cut all the old ones. They die after a season anyways. So that's why they rejuvenate themselves in a way, unless the bush is very, very old and may need to be separated. So, but that requires digging and possibly separating. If someone else has a different experience, they can chime in.
So there's a comment from Helen who says that she years ago had a currant bush called a spice currant, and it grew actually slowly, but to be quite large. So is it possible to prune bushes for size as well as to rejuvenate growth?
Definitely, yes. The currant will actually grow quite wide, and they will ramble a little bit, and they can just get very leggy. I try to keep mine upright, and what I usually do is actually I tie them and try to keep them into shape. I don't have a lot of space. One bush I have in my back, in the very back, that's when I leave it to grow the way it wants, and it's grown to about 4 feet to 4 feet, but that's for my wildlife animals. And the ones I have in a more tight space, I try to actually tie them and keep only the tallest ones, or try to train them to grow in vertical direction. So I put some poles and try to tie them around, and they're right by the fence, so I try to prop them up, and that's how I keep them a little bit growing upwards in vertical direction. But definitely you need to trim them, and the best time is right after they finish producing, or in very early spring.
Sorry to interrupt. We have just another minute or two for maybe one more question.
Okay, and luckily we have one more question from Bernadette, who thanks you, Penka, and she would like to know if the clove currant is deep rooted. She's considering getting one.
I don't know if it's deep rooted. It definitely doesn't spread a lot. I planted it and I haven't touched it. I have a very thick layer of compost. I usually remove the mulch around it in the fall, and then put a new layer of compost, and then I put the mulch again. So I haven't tried to remove it. I don't know how deep is rooted. Definitely, all the bushes get quite deeply rooted, and once established, they're very good at sustaining dry spells if you mulch.
Okay. Yes, if you mulch. So how are we doing for time, Marion? Do we have
that's
time
perfect.
for a quick one?
No, I think that's it. We're pretty well done. Thank you so much, Penka, for a wonderful, very inspiring presentation all about especially for me, blueberries are the thing. If there are any other questions that we maybe either missed or you have them and they come up, please email them to our helpline. And join us next week, same time, Wednesday at 12:30 for another fabulous talk with Kelly Knoll about love the caterpillar if you love the butterfly.